Earlier this week, I received a gift in the mail. A VILTROX 35mm f1.8 full frame prime lens. Which is great, but the problem is that to create a hype reel or mixtape or anything creative really, you definitely need to shoot with a zoom lens to capture both wide and tight shots, which is something that this lens cannot do. Because as you may or may not know, prime lenses like this do not zoom in or out. They only have one focal length, which in this case is 35mm. Having less moving parts means that a prime lens can really optimize everything for that one focal length. So not only are they typically much sharper than zoom lenses, but they also have a wider maximum aperture and fewer optical aberration issues. But as great as a prime lens can be, as I said before, it's not helpful at all when filming sports, or so I thought. You see, last night it sort of hit me that a basketball workout, or any workout for that matter, could be the ideal thing to shoot with this lens. Because unlike in a game scenario, I would have no movement restrictions whatsoever. I can go anywhere, even on the court if I want to, and capture all the wide and tight shots that I need. Also, since I'm mostly shooting one play at a time, I can really make the most of the f1.8 aperture by getting cool action shots with super shallow depth of field. So I'm gonna go to a basketball workout now to test my theory, and afterwards I wanna look at the footage with you guys to see if the extra sharpness is really that obvious and if the wider aperture makes that much of a difference. Because if so, I really think that this lens could be the ideal lens for any type of workout. Especially since it only costs $400 US, which is $500 cheaper than my Tamron 28 to 75mm f2.8, the lens that I would normally use to film a workout. And the VILTROX is also $350 cheaper than its Sony equivalent. So yeah, this could be a game changer. By the way, VILTROX are the ones who sent me this lens. If you don't know who they are, they're a company that makes a lot of third-party camera accessories like lenses obviously, but also monitors and cages, things like that. They did not pay me to make this video, unfortunately, but they did give me this lens for free, so I guess thank you, VILTROX. The main thing here is that I can say or do what I want, so let's just do that.
Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now.
Alright, so I just had a look at the footage and I personally think that it looks amazing. Just the way the player really pops out from the background, all to do with the f1.8 aperture, obviously. It just makes the background that much more blurry, so the player really pops out, so it makes it look sharper, makes it look cleaner, but this is a workout video, so f1.8 works great because there's only one subject in my frame, so I'm never gonna go out of focus by filming someone else in the background or something like that, which would happen quite often in a basketball game if I'm not careful. Also, being a workout, there's a lot of distance between my subject and the backdrop, and that makes the shallow depth of field look amazing. It makes the background extremely blurry, and again, it makes the subject pop out so much that the finished product is perfect. I did notice though that the autofocus on the VILTROX seems to be a bit slow. When I'm filming a player, it's fine, it keeps up with him perfectly, but when I transition to focusing on the ball or the basket, that's usually when the autofocus struggles to understand what's going on basically, which is very annoying, especially when you're playing your clips in super slow-mo, you're zooming in on the ball. It doesn't look as good when the ball is out of focus. If we attempt to look at the difference in sharpness between my zoom lens and this 35mm prime lens, on my monitor right now, looking at it with no compression whatsoever, I can definitely see that the VILTROX looks a touch better than the Tamron. Not that much better, but I can see it. The thing though is that I'm 99% sure that once the YouTube compression kicks in, you guys won't see it. So at the end of the day, if you're making videos for social media, it's probably not going to be noticeable because you're going to be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, and on any of those platforms, the compression is going to kill the little bit of extra sharpness that the prime lens gives you. But remember that I'm comparing these two lenses at the same aperture, at an f2.8. If I switch the aperture at a 1.8 on the prime lens, it doesn't necessarily make it look sharper, but you can see how the image all of a sudden looks a bit more appealing, and in my opinion, it's just a better look. As long as we're making comparisons, I thought I would also mention the differences between the VILTROX 35mm f1.8 and the Sony 35mm f1.8, which, as I said earlier, is almost double the price of this lens. So I haven't used the Sony personally, but I did my research on the interweb, and basically the Sony, as far as the physical side of things, the Sony has a couple buttons that this one doesn't have. There's a autofocus, manual focus switch, and there's also a customizable button. But the VILTROX does have a couple of individual features of its own. The first one is this right here, this aperture ring. I think it's pretty cool, but personally, I've never used an aperture ring before. I tried to use it. It's very stiff, so I prefer to just leave it on auto and control the aperture with the camera instead, to be honest. The other thing that's on this lens that isn't on the Sony version is this USB-C connector right here, which is meant to do firmware updates in the future. When it comes to the sharpness, it's very similar to what we went through already with my Tamron zoom lens compared to this VILTROX prime lens. There is a difference. The Sony version is better, but not by that much, and I don't think it would be noticeable on social media after the compression. So yeah, it is what it is. But from an autofocus perspective though, the Sony is definitely better because it is a native lens. So as it is usually the case, a native lens always does a better job at focusing than a third-party lens. So ultimately, I think my predictions were right. I am not gonna start using prime lenses when filming basketball games, but I will definitely keep using this 35mm from VILTROX when I film workout videos. Because again, it just gives me that very buttery, cinematic, call it what you want, but basically it gives me a look that I really love and that my zoom lenses cannot achieve. Speaking of look, I did use a LUT on all the workout footage you've seen in this video. I used the MSG LUT, which is one of the 12 LUTs in the Ultimate Sports LUT Pack available on my website, beyondthegame.tv. So if you like what you see, just click on the link in the description below to get your very own copy. Bottom line, I do think that this lens is a game changer when it comes to shooting workout videos, especially for the price. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below that you guys can use. It's an affiliate link, by the way. And yeah, you guys can use this link to buy the lens or just to look at all the specs and stuff. And if you want to know more about my zoom lenses, I did make a video about those not too long ago. So make sure you check that video out, which is probably on your screen right now. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.